You are watching the SEC on ESPN. Today we are at the Coleman Coliseum in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And while the attention for Crimson Tide fans tonight will be on the gridiron, today it'll be on the hardwood as the Crimson Tide play host to a very talented Western Kentucky Hilltoppers squad. Mike Morgan, great to be with you alongside former Auburn Tiger Damian Fishback. Today we've got a matchup of two teams poised for the NCAA tournament, and Fish, we've got a matchup of two players that are poised for the NBA draft.
Yeah, you better believe it. And that's what I call Charles Bassey. Charles, you better believe it, Bassey. Look at him. Extremely mobile up and down the floor at 6'11". And guess what else he does? He gives you unbelievable rim protection. And at 235 pounds, he can alleviate any defense by getting up off the floor quickly. And that's with or without the tennis shoe. On the other side, Mike Morgan. How about Herbert? He's a bad man Jones. Look at the penetration with the finger roll over the defense. Then look at him. This is what he's improved the most, Mike, is that jump shot from behind the perimeter. And then he gives you extra possessions off of the glass. He's a rebounder and an unselfish passer. But last but not least, against Furman, he made a winning play. Block shot there, and that is exactly what he is. He's a winner, and I think the most important piece for the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Well, I am with you. He is a bad man, and it's bad news for anybody he is guarding. Herbert Jones, great on-ball defender. Charles Bassey of Western Kentucky, one of the best shot blockers in the country. In fact, he leads the nation in that category. Western Kentucky with the basketball first. We're underway here from the Coleman Coliseum in Tuscaloosa. This was a matchup that Alabama was supposed to play top 10 Houston. Houston had to back out with COVID concerns. Enter Western Kentucky. A very difficult matchup from Conference USA. And there is the first rebound and bucket for Charles Bassey, who we mentioned, the preseason player of the year in Conference USA. A lot of veterans returning for Alabama, including John Petty and Herbert Jones, the two seniors. Jaden Shackelford was terrific last year, gotten off to a sluggish start. Nate Oates telling us they need number 5 in white to pick it up this season.
And he will pick it up, Mike. Listen, what we saw in that first play is going to be the differential in who wins this basketball game. The defensive glass. Alabama defended well, but they weren't able to box out Charles Bassey. But this is what we talked about before air. John Petty gets an open look because Rick Stansbury will change defenses. He'll play a little zone, a little man-to-man, which allows the defense to lose John Petty at times.
Rick Stansbury, of course, the longtime Mississippi State head coach. This is the 30th time he has coached against Alabama in his career. Another 3 balls set up for the Tide. They will shoot several of them. Last year they shot 32 threes a game. This year, though, the numbers percentage-wise are down from 35 to 30. Starting 5 for Western Kentucky. We talked about Bassey. Hollingsworth is the other player to look for. Their leading scorer, averaging 16.5 points per game. A very electric guard who is wired to score. Alabama wired to pick up a turnover, a steal that time by James Rojas. And Nate Oates was very quick to tell us, Damian, yesterday that that is a young man. They need his toughness. They need his prowess on defense. He's making an impact.
Well, he was the difference in the game along with Herb Jones to bring that grit and toughness in the Furman game. Furman, a very good team out of the Southern Conference, picked to win the league by the media, jumped out and got up 16 points on Alabama. But Rojas, along with Herbert Jones and some other players, were a huge part of bringing Alabama back.
Hooper picking up the foul, fouling Herbert Jones. That'll be the second foul on the Hilltoppers. A little more than 90 seconds into the action between these two, Alabama and Western Kentucky. And as you see, the bucket on the fall by Jordan Bruner, the transfer from Yale. Alabama leads this series 2-0. They haven't met since 1989. Bassey. Got Bassey 30 feet from the basket. I'm not sure if that's where they want their big man. And then a turnover. As Josh Anderson left his feet with nothing to do with it. I mentioned Rick Stansbury. SEC fans very familiar with that name. 14 years in Starkville. And as Rick was telling us the other day, he said, you know, when I was coaching Mississippi State, obviously Ole Miss was a rival, but my #1 rival was Alabama. Those two schools, which are the closest of any two in the SEC, and they had some classic matchups.
Yeah, classic matchups and classic recruiting thrashes. You think about that Mississippi-Alabama state line. That made for a very competitive Alabama and Mississippi State rivalry.
Great shot by Carson Williams. He'll go to the free throw line. 5 seasons now in Bowling Green for Rick Stansbury, looking to make the NCAA tournament. Again, picked to win Conference USA this year. I mentioned those classic matchups against Alabama in 2004. They were down 18 in the second half in this building. Came back and defeated Alabama, and that clinched a Southeastern Conference championship for Rick Stansbury and Mississippi State.
I think Coach Rick Stansbury is respected by all coaches that face him. They know that his basketball mind is tremendous, and no matter where he's gone, whether it's Mississippi State or at Western Kentucky, he's had the ability to get players and to win basketball games.
And how about the job that Nate Oates did last year? Low expectations for Alabama. They were on the cusp of being a bubble team in the NCAA tournament had they had a good SEC tournament, which, as we all know, unfortunately came to an end, as did the rest of the sports world. 3 NCAA tournaments at Buffalo, and that's what led Nate Oates to be a hot commodity, landing the job in Tuscaloosa, and in a short amount of time he has become quite a fit for the Crimson Tide program.
Yeah, I think he was tailor-made for the program. When you go to a school like Alabama or any school in the SEC where football is so dominant, the coach has to have a different mantra, and Coach Nate Oates does. He's a fighter. He's willing to go get it himself and carries a hard hat, and that's why they've been more successful.
Hoop in the harm. Great take that time by Western Kentucky's Hollingsworth. We told you what a great penetrator he was. This all started with the block by Anderson.
Yeah, Josh Anderson with the block. And this is where Western Kentucky, and particularly Hollingsworth, is very good. He's the guy that I would just call a baller. You won't say he's a shooter or a penetrator. He's just a baller. His team, if you go out to the park and play every day, is going to be the team that stays on the court and wins victories, Mike.
They did call an offensive foul on that last possession, and then Alabama turns it right back over, so it'll be Western Kentucky basketball. If you're not familiar with Western Kentucky, you know, I always say this, Fish, because a lot of times people mistakenly put all mid-majors in one big pot. They're not all the same. Western Kentucky's been to 23 NCAA tournaments, a Final Four, terrific tradition with this program.
Yeah, I grew up going to Diddle Arena when I was a kid at Bowling Green, and at the end of the day, the excitement that was there, the players that came through there, the tradition is as good as anyone. You look at Louisville in the state of Kentucky, and obviously Big Blue Nation, Kentucky, but Western Kentucky has been competing for a long time.
Clem Haskins, of course, the longtime coach, a famous alum. Not to mention one Courtney Lee, who's been in the NBA for quite some time. First media timeout. The Hilltoppers 4, the Crimson Tide 2 from Tuscaloosa. Slow start offensively for both teams in this one. 4-2, Western Kentucky leads it. Game, of course, taking place in Tuscaloosa. We are welcoming you inside our humble homes. Mike Morgan coming to you from Atlanta. Damian Fishback also in Atlanta. We're in different parts of Atlanta. And this is a great interior decorating for both of us, Fish. Let's talk about this Alabama team. You know, they lose Kyra Lewis. And anytime you lose a lottery pick and your go-to guy, that's not an easy task. How does Alabama make up for that loss this year?
Well, first of all, I think you got to give a lot of credit to Alabama for having a couple of lottery picks. When you think about Colin Sexton coming out of Alabama the year before, and then you come back with a guy like Kyra Lewis, it talks about the job that they have done, and particularly with developing guards. In regards to how Alabama gets past that, Javon Quinterly, the transfer from Villanova, I think he's going to fit in tremendously. He's trying to find his way, get used to Coach Nate Oates' system, but I think he's playing it in different ways, and they're learning to play with him. I think this Alabama team is better than last year's team, and the number one reason is because Herbert Jones is healthy.
Yeah, I'm with you. Of course, last year Herbert Jones had that cast on his broken hand, missed several games. And you see Western Kentucky struggling to get a shot off. Great defense by Alabama, and that's something, again, Alabama last year, offense was not the problem. They scored a ton of points. Defensively, though, Nate Oates will be the first to tell you they've got to be better on that end of the floor this year.
Well, we saw that in the last game. When you look at the differences in the percentages in the first half versus the second, Alabama truly stepped up their basketball game, and it allowed them to come back from a 16-point deficit. What I see from Alabama today, because they recognize that Western Kentucky is a quality basketball team, they are defending from the very beginning of the basketball game, which is critical to their offense and defense.
Both teams struggling to score early on, but not on that possession. Charles Bassey, and now you know why NBA scouts love number 23 in black. At 6'11", he can run the floor.
Well, that's something that big men often forget about, is the importance of running the floor. We often see the finish, but we don't see them to really take those first 2 or 3 steps. That's what separates you regardless of what position you're in, but in particular when you're a big guy.
Meanwhile, Alabama ice cold, 1 for 9 from the floor, and a turnover on the Hilltoppers. Watch the movement and the fluidity of the 6'11" Bassey.
Well, you see, that was what I was talking about, Mike. He runs the floor so well. So in his first 2 or 3 steps, he already had 3 or 4 Alabama players behind him. And as a big guy, you should get at least 2 to 4 baskets a game simply by outrunning your opponent. Charles Bassey gives us a prime example of how to do that.
Well, Alabama's got to get something going on offense. They've missed 8 of the first 9 shots, still stuck on 2 points, and that's a good way to put an end to the drought. That's Josh Primo, a highly touted freshman out of Toronto.
And he's coming, Mike. I noticed that in the Furman game last time. He made some good plays. Offensively, he's already there. What he's got to do is continue to learn to defend at this level.
Here's that Alabama defense. The steal and the flush by John Petty.
So impressed with John Petty. John Petty struggled a little bit offensively, and that's because everybody knows that John Petty is a must-stop. But what he did in the previous game is he had 7 rebounds and 6 assists. So that shows you he can defend, he can rebound, he can distribute the basketball and help his team win in other ways.
All of a sudden, both teams starting to wake up offensively. Hilltoppers on the drive. Shot was either blocked or altered. Jordan Rawls can't get it to go, but then the follow.
So what do you notice already, Mike? The Achilles heel for Alabama, half of the buckets scored have been Charles Bassey getting on the offensive glass. They're a little light when it comes to the interior, so they have to do what we call gang rebound. All 5 of the Crimson Tide players have to rebound cohesively in order to get out of their defensive possessions.
Nifty move, but a little bit too nifty. Extra step there by Herbert Jones.
Alabama obviously defending much better, like we talked about that they did in the second half, and that's one way you can do it, young fella. John Petty realizing that I can get involved in this basketball game much more than just shooting the jump shot. I can defend, I can pass, and I can rebound.
6 early points for Charles Bassey of Western Kentucky. I was talking earlier about not all mid-majors are built the same. Not many have a 6'11" future top draft pick like Charles Bassey of Western Kentucky.
Well, there's no doubt about it that he's going to play at the next level. The question is whether he'll be a lottery pick or whether he'll be, a late first rounder. And a lot of that will be determined by how well his team does.
Don't forget, tomorrow should be a great top 20 Big Ten battle. Number 13, Illinois squares off against number 19, Rutgers at the RAC. First time the Scarlet Knights have started the season with 5 double-digit wins since 1934. That'll be at 1 Eastern on ESPN2. Brad Underwood has a special team this year in Champaign. Had a chance to see them last year in the bragging rights battle with Mizzou. Ayo Dosunmu. Remember that name, Fish. He is one of the top scorers in college basketball.
Yeah, I like Dosunmu and Cockburn inside as well. The big fella has improved substantially. Coach Brad Underwood's been doing it for a long time, and it's good to see him having some success.
11:33 to play in the first half. Hilltoppers up by 3. Yeah, I would say there'll be a few eyeballs on this game coming up at 4 o'clock Eastern on ABC. Clemson and Notre Dame, the rematch. Of course, this time, Clemson will not only have some key starters back on the defensive side, but also their starting quarterback and presumptive #1 pick in the NFL draft, Trevor Lawrence. So you got Lawrence against Book, Tigers versus the Irish. What do you think, Fish? Where are you leaning on this one?
Come on, man. I have to go with proven winners. And Trevor Lawrence did not come back to school to not win an ACC title. I got the Tigers.
I'm with you on that. I think Clemson wins the rematch. And we might be heading for yet another Clemson-Alabama championship game. If you like variety, you're going to look toward basketball because that's where you're getting it. Football has been a lot of the same here lately. There's the quick basket by Luke Frampton. Frampton, transfer from Davidson. He is instant offense off the bench.
Yeah, one of the many shooters that Western Kentucky has on this basketball team. And Western Kentucky has, you know, Coach Rick Stansbury has put this team together in his own way. They actually were still right there to win it, to win Conference USA last year. And that's with Charles Bassey actually going down, only playing 10 games because of the broken leg. Coach Rick Stansbury, without question, will get it done at Western Kentucky, and he is going to be a formidable opponent for all Conference USA teams this season.
Saw Keon Ellis at the free throw line, the #1 rated junior college transfer in the country. Nate Oates already doing a fine job in recruiting, and they got another great point guard coming in who's already signed. Tough shot, high off the glass, pops out. And the rebound off to the Hilltoppers and McKnight. I mentioned that top prospect. Was talking to our own Paul Biancardi, the czar of high school basketball recruiting. And he was talking about #2 point guard in the country coming to Alabama. We're talking about J.D. Davidson. So they just keep stockpiling quality point guards in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, absolutely. And Paul Biancardi does a tremendous job. And you see Western Kentucky, it's the silent assassin of college basketball. And when I say the silent assassin, I mean out of bounds plays, right? You're going to get 6 fouls before you get into the bonus each half. And so these out of bounds plays are where coaches are able to live and breathe to get opportunities. And Coach Rick Stansbury right now has been able to win on a couple of these out of bounds plays, whether it's scoring or getting to the free throw line.
Luke Frampton, who's their top scorer off the bench, he's almost like a starter with the way he plays. That'll be a goaltend. 2 points for Bama. And a 4-point game overall here in the first half.
Well, Mike, this is a game that's actually nice look by Quinterly. It's actually at the pace more of Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky can slow it down. They can beat you up in the half court. Alabama wants to get out and run, but in order to do that, they're going to have to stop this guy, Charles Bassey, on the interior, Mike.
That is 10 early points for Bassey, and Western Kentucky on an 8-1 run.
Well, Coach Rick Stansbury in our call, he made no secret about it. You know, you asked him what the plan was. He said, we're going to do what we do. We're going to pound the basketball inside. We've got a 6'11", 235-pounder in Charles Bassey, who we know can score on the interior. The question is, how will Alabama respond? Will they double team? Will they try to dig down and make him uncomfortable? They have to do something to try to limit Bassey.
Spinning pull-up shot that time for the Hilltoppers. Can't find the mark. Alabama's offense has been stagnant. Well, last year, this offense averaged over 80 points a game. That'll help. Nice driving take by Quinterly, who's been quiet.
I guarantee you, Mike, the more stops that Alabama can get on the defensive end, the less stagnant their offense will become.
Well, this will help as well. Another steal. And a layup in transition for Quinerly. 4 quick points for the former McDonald's All-American and Villanova Wildcat Jahvon Quinerly.
So many young players in particular don't realize how attached their offense and defense are. The more you get stops, the more you can get out and run and get dunks, get three-pointers, do the things that all players like to do, which is score. Here's a prime example. You see Quinerly getting into the teeth of the defense. This is where I think he separates himself. A little bit stronger, more bulky than Kira Lewis was. And then John Petty. This is the multiple times that we're seeing him tonight create some defense and turn that into offense. Tremendous leadership shown by Petty and a nice finish by Quinerly.
That's so true. And obviously Alabama looking to eventually heat up on offense. But what they need to get to that next level is what we've been seeing the last few possessions. And there's another one, a shot clock violation, a couple of steals. That's what Nate Oates has implored his team to do this year. Amp it up on the defensive end.
I love the job and the mentality that Coach Nate Oates has brought to this Alabama team. It's a little bit tougher, more gritty, and even in the Furman game, at a certain point in the second half, when they were down, he put all gritty, tough guys in there. That's why he talked about Rojos. That's why he talked about Juwan Gary. And now the team knows that they have to play with that tough mentality if they want to get on the floor with Alabama.
Bruner, offensive rebound, sets up an open three. And that time, Quinerly left it short. 2-point game, under 9 minutes to go, first half from Coleman Coliseum. And a travel on the Hilltoppers. So all of a sudden, Western Kentucky being stifled on the offensive end.
Well, what's happening is Charles Bassey is starting to get more and more attention as he continues to dominate this game. And I assume it's just going to continue to increase as the game goes on. He has to maintain his patience and poise.
Look at that move that time by Quinerly. Wheeling and dealing at the basket. Tie ball game. That following the 8th turnover this half by Western Kentucky. Inside, and that's going to be an easy deuce for Charles Bassey.
Yeah, anytime you get 2 men on the ball, you are in trouble. And Western Kentucky now picking it up on the defensive end themselves.
Bassey, who leads the nation in dunks, picks up another, and then another easy basket for the Hilltoppers at back up by 4.
Yeah, Jordan Rawls caught Alabama sleeping at the wheel.
Flat-footed rebound. Count the basket and the foul for Jordan Bruner. 2-point game in Tuscaloosa. When we come back, Damian Fishback's going to be dropping some knowledge. You asked for it, you're getting it. Fish Facts. Out of the game we expected. Western Kentucky, very talented squad out of Conference USA, leading Alabama 20-18 as we welcome you back inside our humble abode. It's Mike Morgan, Damian Fishback. The omniscient one, Damian Fishback, going to drop some knowledge with some fish facts. Damian, what do you have for us?
Well, this one is a little unique to this season, and it's preparation plus opportunity equal success. Facts. And you've seen that already this year. You look at the teams that are doing the best. In the SEC, Tennessee, one of the better teams in the country. You can tell their preparation and ability to mix those veterans along with those young players. They were prepared, and as they continue to run into those opportunities, they've had success. And you've seen some teams struggle because of the loss of some of the players they had. They haven't had the time to make those preparations, and as a result, they haven't quite been as successful this season.
The one thing that is commonplace, every coach we talk to, is the distraction, the lack of continuity, not just in games, which several have already been postponed or canceled, but in practice. I mean, you've got teams that literally sometimes are sitting in hotels for 4 or 5 days, unable to really conduct the normal type of preparation that you would have. So it is going to be a bigger challenge than it normally would be in any other year.
Yeah, Coach Rick Stansbury actually talked to us about that. He didn't make an excuse for the Louisville game, but he said when they were in Louisville, they couldn't do anything. They had to stay in the hotel for 4 or 5 days, and that's one of their 2 losses, the other one, West Virginia. So fans watching this game, as you said earlier, need to know this is a quality Western Kentucky team, and they're showing that here early.
A Hilltopper team that's already beaten Memphis and Rhode Island and lost by only 6 to West Virginia, so they're not going to be afraid to take on all comers. Bump foul that time on Bama. Western Kentucky continues to be aggressive. One stat, and we'll delve more into this and where this came from in the second half, that has followed Rick Stansbury wherever he has been, and that includes 14 years at Mississippi State. His teams always shoot more free throws than their opponents. You got to get in the paint. You got to be aggressive on the drive. You don't settle for a bunch of threes like that one. And that has been the trend so far in this game as well. A bunch of points in the paint.
Well, it's a mixture of styles and also a mixture of philosophies. Coach Rick Stansbury is more old school. When you talk about mid-range jump shots or pounding the basketball inside, you may not see the easy layup or the three-point shots that you see with the new, more analytical coaches. But what happens is oftentimes, because of you moving the basketball and breaking down the defense, you get to the free throw line more, whether that's off of the bounce or whether that's off of the pass, trying to get the basketball inside. You often get more offensive rebounding lanes as well. Coach Nate Oates on the other side, Mike, he's more of an analytical coach. He wants to score in the first 7-8 seconds in transition, and then he wants to either get layups or he wants to get three-point shots, and he believes the analytics in those shots are going to give him a better opportunity over 40 minutes of play to win the game.
Quinterly splits the free throws. He's got 7. Bama trails by 3. I asked Rick, where did that philosophy come from? I mean, that can't be an accident. When all these years as a head coach, every single time you've had more free throws. He said that goes all the way back to Lake Kelly at Austin Peay, his original mentor. That was the philosophy that he employed, and Rick Stansbury has stood with that. And I know you know a thing or two about Coach Kelly, Damian Fishback.
No doubt about it. You know, you look at this photo that we're going to show. You take a look to the top, 2 top guys that look like they could be politicians, actually, with those tremendous hairdos.
That's a great ticket right there. Kelly Stansbury, vote for us.
You see Lake Kelly on the left, of course, Rick Stansbury on the right, but Lake Kelly was loved by all, in particular my father, who played at Austin Peay as well. Nothing but tremendous things to say about Coach Lake Kelly, and Coach Rick Stansbury was right in line as well, talking about his mentor and a tremendous job and influence that Coach Lake Kelly was on him.
I'm Rick Stansbury, and I approve this message. It all comes back to Damian Fishback, the 6 degrees of fish. You got Bowling Green, your hometown. That is a bank 3. I seriously doubt that was called, but we'll take it. Alabama certainly will for a 1-point game. But we got Bowling Green, we got your dad, we got Lake Kelly and Rick Stansbury. I mean, all directions, one way or another, flow toward Damian Fishback. Nice take inside.
Yeah, Williams is trouble on the inside. Carson Williams is 6'5", but he's 240 pounds, Mike. And so that makes him a disadvantage for a lot of opponents defensively when he gets on the interior. He knows how to use that big body, and that's what you saw on the previous play with him posting up on the interior.
Carson Williams, in his second year with Western, he was a transfer from Northern Kentucky. The head coach at Northern Kentucky is Darren Horn, who played and coached at Western Kentucky.
Yeah, big-time player. Obviously coached in South Carolina as well. Good to see him back in the coaching ranks at Northern Kentucky.
This is where it's the 6 degrees of Mike Morgan. I actually called games with Darren Horn when he joined us at ESPN for a time.
Small world, isn't it?
It's a very small world, and the longer you and I do this, the more of those kind of weird connections we seem to find. Under 5 minutes to play, 3-point game. Alabama down by 3. Western Kentucky has been dominating points in the paint thus far. Bassey has been the go-to guy, is posting up right here. Nice job of fronting that time by Jones. And out of bounds to Alabama. Bassey with 14 points today on 6 of 7 from the field. So if there was any curiosity, could Charles Bassey hold his own against an SEC opponent? There's your answer. Look at that stat line. 14 points, 5 rebounds, at least 1 block at last count.
Well, it also shows an Achilles heel for Alabama, right? When they face guys that are big guys and able to dominate inside, maybe a John Fulkerson at Tennessee, a Jeremiah Tillman at Missouri, they're going to have to figure out how to defend those guys in the half court.
Nice shot by Quinerly, who's heating up for Bama. Quinerly now leading the way for the Tide with 9 points.
I'm actually impressed with Alabama being able to play this style, though. This is a low-scoring game. It's been more half-court. They haven't been able to get out in transition a lot, but they're only down 1 point against a solid Hilltopper team.
Nice feed by Bassey. Kind of an unselfish play, but it will be out of bounds to Alabama when we come back. 3:41 to go. Hilltoppers up by a point. Beautiful campus at the University of Alabama. Western Kentucky leading it by 1 point, 26-25. Of course, that campus will be all focused on the big football game tonight, SEC championship game against the Florida Gators. College basketball fans, tomorrow you can be focused on number 13 Illinois taking on number 19 Rutgers. That'll be at 1 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN2. Brad Underwood's got himself a really good team in Champaign this season. Mike Morgan, Damian Fishback. We told you this one would be a struggle for Alabama. No knock on the Tide. The Western Kentucky is legit, and they are battle tested, as we mentioned. This was a game that was actually kind of an audible on Tuesday. Alabama was supposed to play Houston, a top 10 team, and Nate Oates telling us he did not want to replace that game with a cupcake. He wanted a quality opponent, and Western Kentucky certainly would qualify as that.
I would agree. Also, Houston, without question, is good enough to get to the Final Four this year. I believe Coach Sampson has done that good of a job in building his culture. I think without question they have to be the lead in the American Conference. Had a chance to see SMU, Memphis, some other quality teams in the American Conference, but I believe Houston is head and shoulders above everyone else in that league.
I certainly would agree with that. I had Memphis last week against Auburn. Unable to pick up a win against Bruce Pearl and company. There's Charles Bassey showing the scouts he's got some good mid-range game as well.
Yeah, pro stuff. Charles Bassey is dominating this basketball game. I'm anxious to see if anyone steps up to the plate and tries to slow him down.
See Bassey now, that's an updated stat line. They took 3 points away from Bassey and gave it to his teammate Jordan Rawls. So officially, Bassey 13 points, 6 rebounds in the first half, and at times he has looked like the best player on the floor tonight.
All the time. At least the game I've been watching.
Yeah, and that time a little bit of a bobble, a steal for Bama. 3-on-2 and a bump foul on the Hilltoppers. That'll be on the floor. And that'll be the 8th team foul on Western Kentucky. So a 1-and-1 upcoming for Bama.
Now this is what I'm talking about. This is what we call digging down. So Jaden Shackelford that time left his man to go help down on Charles Bassey. Whenever you have a big man, Mike, if they're comfortable inside, then there's not a lot you can do to stop them. They got good footwork, good touch, good awareness. So for a guy like Charles Bassey, when you play him, he needs to be uncomfortable. He needs to wonder if you're going to come down and help from the guard position, if you're going to double team him, or you're going to leave him one-on-one. You need to make him think more than him just be able to play and react.
The one man who leads the nation in blocks and in dunks preseason Conference USA Player of the Year. Another player from Lagos, Nigeria. We've seen several players in the SEC from that same destination. Bassey got it up top and a whistle away from the ball. And that'll go against Alabama.
That's what I mean when I talked about the difference in styles, right? So that's another foul that goes against Alabama. Now there's 6 foul. So the next foul, Western Kentucky will be shooting a bonus. That's the difference in the styles.
Tough shot hanging in the air, unable to connect was Anderson. And then a steal, scooped up by Rawls. Into the hands of Williams. Banging bodies, kicked out pass. 3 on the way is short. And a rebound by Bassey, but a foul first. That's going to go against Western Kentucky.
Herbert Jones is doing a tremendous job against Carson Williams on the interior. I rewatched the Memphis game last night. Just like to watch teams at least a couple of times before. And Carson Williams really had his way on the interior. They were able to run offense through him, similar to how they run it through Bassey. But Herbert Jones, even though he's lighter in weight, he's not lighter in heart. And he's got a couple of inches. He's 6'7", and he's doing a good job defensively.
Herbert Jones just continues to be one of the best lockdown defenders in college basketball as Bruner toes the line. Valuable transfer for Alabama from Yale. He was first team all Ivy League last season. 6'10", 225 pounds out of Columbia, South Carolina.
Well, and you mentioned a while ago, I guess a couple of plays ago, that he knocked down a flat-footed layup. Now, he's not the most athletic big man you're going to see, but I do think he has a tremendous basketball IQ, and I think that he brings a lot for this Alabama team.
Yeah, more in the plotter mold. There's Herbert Jones. Congratulations to Herb. He graduated last Saturday, unable to walk like so many athletes this year. Everything has been kind of upside down with COVID, but able to pick up his diploma, put together a fine career, and I think you and I are in agreement. There's a spot for Herbert Jones in the NBA on defense alone. Another foul on the interior.
Yeah, we just showed his picture of his so fresh, so clean look with the red tie. I thought it was nice. But we just saw right there with Carson Williams and there it is right there with the nice Dodge Charger in the background. I like that. Herbert Jones.
That's like an album cover. Like okay, what's your top single?
Hey, he's looking at the camera like, can you see me now? Can you see me? How do I look?
Yeah. I'll tell you, here's my favorite Herbert Jones story, and I gained so much respect. It's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen from a college basketball player. Last year, he's playing with a broken hand, so he's got a hard cast. He's a lefty, so it's on his left hand. Against LSU in a key game, he gets 17 rebounds and then has to shoot 2 free throws with his offhand to help win the game. I've never seen a better performance in a college basketball game, considering those obstacles by Herbert Jones.
Unbelievable story.
He's been a joy to watch for 4 years in the SEC. Coming up on the 1-minute mark, even Steven, 29 all from Tuscaloosa.
Mike, this isn't a high-scoring game, but it's a pretty clean basketball game.
Clean take right there by Jordan Rawls. He's got 9.
Jordan Rawls keeps getting better every game. A career high of 12 points and 5 rebounds against Mississippi Valley State.
There's the 3. Josh Primo. Alabama had been sitting on just 2 threes and a half. They're now 3 for 16 from downtown.
Josh Primo, Mike, like many young players, the 5-star, he's going to get better every time he steps in between the lines.
5-star prospect out of Toronto. Pull-up jumper. Kicks off the iron. Offensive rebound and followed by Jordan Rawls. What an active half for the sophomore Rawls. think Alabama just took the use it or lose it timeout. Check the clock. It shows 6.5. Yeah, that's better. 10.6. Western Kentucky active on the offensive glass. Back to live action. 33-32, a turnover on Alabama, 4.9 seconds. So now the Hilltoppers will play for the final shot. Already up by a point. We've had 3 ties, 4 lead changes so far, Fish.
You want to talk about frustration? You call a timeout to try to salvage the possession, take some momentum into the half, down 1, hoping that you either go in down 1 or possibly take the lead, and your team comes in and turns it over. Nate Oates, I'm sure, trying to explain to his team exactly the mistake they made. But now, if you're Coach Rick Stansbury, you have an opportunity to extend your lead going into the half. And if I'm Coach Rick Stansbury, I know where he's going, and that is pounding the basketball into the paint where they've been dominant. Right now, they're dominant on the glass, 24-17, and one of the reasons is because they continue to attack the paint area.
That has been an issue for Alabama defensively. Alabama only 3 for 16 from behind the arc. You know, last year they didn't just shoot a ton of threes. They made them 35%. You can live with that. This year they're down to 30%. Less than that in this game. Final shot of the half. It's a wide open 3, and it kicks off the iron. Jordan Rawls cannot connect, but Western Kentucky, all things equal, happy to be up by a point. 33-32, your halftime score at Coleman Coliseum. Bassey leading the way with 13 points. Quinterly for Alabama with 9. We'll take a break, come back, break down the Southeastern Conference, and we return. Well, it's one of the best games of the year, if not the best. Notre Dame and Clemson overtime affair. Notre Dame, of course, won it in South Bend, but again, Clemson, no Trevor Lawrence in that game. You look at the tail of the tape. Notre Dame certainly has more weapons than Clemson is used to seeing in the ACC championship game. We'll see if this time out, if Clemson can get revenge or if Notre Dame can make a final statement. Alabama going to try to make a statement. They trail it by 1. First half highlights led by Javon Quinterly and Charles Bassey. Fish, take it away.
Yeah, Javon Quinterly, the transfer from Villanova, 2018 McDonald's All-American, now beginning to come into his own. Nice penetration and body control. On the other side, Charles, I'm a bad boy, Bassey. You see him running the floor with the big finish at the rim. You get 2 men on the basketball. Bassey rolls to the glass wide open with the big-time finish. There's no doubt in my mind that Charles Bassey will be playing at the next level next year. And there's no doubt in my mind that Javon Quinterly is now beginning to figure out Coach Nate Oates' system.
What do we look for out of Alabama offensively in the second half?
Well, right now, what you just saw was they're using some of Coach Rick Stansbury. They're giving him some of his own medicine. They're taking Herbert Jones and trying to post him up to use his 6'7" length and size to get inside presence. And I like the play out of the half by Coach Oates.
Another lead change in this game. We've had several thus far. Alabama up by a point. The third all-time meeting between these two schools. Bassey gets bumped and foul. Another trip to the free throw line for the 6'11" junior out of Lagos, Nigeria.
Alabama has Alabama is having some challenges with the screen and roll, and that's because they're still young at some of their positions. When you have a screen and roll, it's never just the 2 defenders. It's always a team defense. And so when you have 2 guys on the ball here, this isn't just Bruner and Herbert Jones. Rojas has to be over earlier to help, or John Petty in that case, since his man was the furthest away from the basketball. And so that's where Alabama has to continue to improve in defending the ball screen.
1 for 2 from the line for Bassey. leads all scores. 14 points for Bassey, tie ball game. And a whistle and a foul. And it'll go against Hollingsworth, who is rather quiet in the first half. Leading scorer did not have a single shot, actually, and he just picked up his third foul. That's part of the reason why he's been quiet.
Well, this is a challenging game for Hollingsworth. Alabama can be lethal defensively when they want to be. You've got Petty at 6'6", Herbert Jones at 6'7". They're long and lengthy, and so when they want to sit down and guard you, they make it extremely difficult for guards.
Petty had a great look from three, left it short, and there is the aforementioned Hollingsworth, still scoreless in this game. Hollingsworth last year drew 5 fouls a game. He's a very aggressive point guard who loves to play downhill, and that time Rojas played downhill and drew the foul.
Well, I have to give Alabama a lot of credit. This isn't the type of game that they would like to play. They like to get up and down, score in the first 7-8 seconds. But they have displayed tremendous patience because Western Kentucky has done a great job of getting back in defensive transition.
Tough pass and stolen away by Hollingsworth, and Hollingsworth slams it home. His first basket and a big one.
And that's all it takes sometimes to get a player going when they're having a challenging day. Outstanding job defensively by Hollingsworth.
Hilltoppers back up to Jones. No. Follow-up flush, yes, by Jordan Bruner, the transfer from Yale.
You heard that, didn't you, Mike Morgan?
Absolutely.
Bruner said, that's not flat-footed at all, Mike.
He is 6'10". I'm not going to give too many bouquets for a 6'10" guy slamming.
No doubt. He still got up there.
He is going to be a big factor for Alabama this year.
Mike, take a look at this play. Herbert Jones, this is a lot of trust here. If you're Rojas, you got to just find a way to go up and get that. Hollingsworth, like a cornerback, got up there and was able to get in the passing lane. Of course, Nate Oates didn't like that whatsoever.
See if Hollingsworth is a little more aggressive in this second half. Speaking of aggressive, strong take to the basket by Josh Anderson, the senior.
Yeah, Western Kentucky has multiple weapons, played 30 games last year, 16 starts. He plays a lot of minutes and gives them about 7 points per game, or 10 points per game.
Shackelford with a rise and fire three. Jaden Shackelford, who last year led the SEC in conference play with 55 triples, off to a sluggish start this year. Maybe that'll get him going. Nate Oates told us if there's one guy he'd really like to see get it going, it would be Jaden Shackelford. Here's a steal. And a turnover on Bruner. Here comes Western Kentucky. Hollingsworth, killer crossover, pull up, and he'll go to the line for a pair.
You know, as a player, you always got an idea of what's a good shot and a bad shot. But then there's that shot that you're just going to take. And that's what Jaden Shackelford did that time. And it's one of those shots to where coaches, if you make it, they love it, they're clapping their hands. If you miss it, you may have to come over to the sideline. I love the confidence for Jaden Shackelford on that play.
Yeah, that was a bit of a heat check for Shackelford, the young man out of California. Now don't forget, tomorrow a top 20 Big Ten battle between Illinois and Rutgers. Scarlet Knights off to a sizzling start, 5 double-digit wins to start the season. The first time that's happened since 1934. Brad Underwood and Illinois, one of the more talented teams in America. Western Kentucky with the free throw recaptures the lead, 40-39 our score. Alabama hoisting up threes again, that time left it short. Alex Reese did. Alabama just 4 for 19 from behind the arc. Western Kentucky 1 for 8 now.
Still figuring out.
Yeah.
Jahvon Quinerly is still trying to figure out not only his game after being out, so he's been out for a year, so he may have lost a little bit of rhythm, but also figuring out what he can and can't do under a new coach, in Coach Nate Oates. And Coach Nate Oates is still figuring out what Quinerly can do. Quinerly will get there as the season goes on. I love his game.
Talented transfer out of Villanova. Originally from Hackensack, New Jersey. Bassey up top. Bassey showing he's got some handle. Bassey with a runner. Charles Bassey at 6'11", making guard moves. 16 for the big man. And a bump foul on Hollingsworth.
You know, we talked about Charles Bassey being mobile and a rim protector. Well, he's also showing you something else he's got, and that's touch.
Coming up at 6:30 Eastern Time, the SEC Nation crew will be back to wrap up the 4 afternoon matchups and get you set for the Gators and the Crimson Tide. After the game, you can head back to the SEC Network for a full breakdown and interviews with the players and the coaches. Of course, that'll be coming to you from Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It'll be Alabama and Florida, two teams that have met several times and two of the top quarterbacks in the country. Now, Fish, I'll be watching for a number of reasons. Number one, I just want to because I love good football. Number two, as a responsible Heisman voter, I've not sent in my ballot yet. I want to see what Trask does. I want to see what Jones does. I want to see what Devontae Adams does. Excuse me, Devontae Smith does in that game as well. Kyle Pitts did have some Heisman hype, but he has missed a number of games. I don't think he's going to have the same type of draw, but I really think the top Heisman candidates are all in that game, so I'll be glued to the ball game and the analysis afterwards on the SEC Network.
Well, you said an awful lot there, Mike, but you didn't tell me who you were leaning towards.
Honestly, I don't know if I have a strong lean. I think it's that tight. I really think it depends on what happens tonight in that game. You know, so a lot of people want to count Kyle Trask out. I mean, Florida wins that game. He's not the reason they lost against LSU. He threw for nearly 500 yards. He doesn't have the supporting cast that Alabama does. I think Mac Jones is as accurate as any quarterback. And then when you talk about Devontae Smith, I mean, there's not a more talented wide receiver in college football, that's for sure. Oh, here we go. Oh, okay. I see what you did there. Mac Jones, the football player. Herbert Jones, the basketball player. Now, we do have the Naismith Award in college basketball. I don't know if Herbert Jones is going to be a finalist for that. I do know he's got a great chance to be first team All-SEC again. And what it doesn't say on that graphic, and it's hard to quantify this, but you're looking at one of the best defensive players in all of college basketball there on the left.
Absolutely.
Mac Jones doesn't play any defense for Alabama football unless he throws a pick, and he's got to at least try to make a tackle. Alabama hoping he doesn't throw any picks tonight. Can't wait for that one. I can't wait for the final 15 minutes of this one. We have been nip and tuck all the way. And there's Charles Bassey, who has been a one-man wrecking crew. 18 points now for the Hilltoppers and Bassey.
Well, when people watch this film going forward, if they have a strong big, Alabama better believe that they're going to attack their bigs on the interior.
Bassey forced the altered shot there. Hilltoppers in transition and an offensive foul. Out of control was Josh Anderson, and Alabama will take over.
Yeah, nice job by the freshman, Josh Primo. I think Josh Primo is really just continuing to grow up every time he steps between the lines. You think about some of the young freshmen in the SEC. You've got Johnson and Springer at Tennessee. Obviously, Kentucky's always loaded with Boston Jr. And Clark. You got, Cam at LSU. This league, year in and year out, has produced so many pros, and their expectations are so high. Just like John Petty, with a nice expectation to finally knock down a three, and this crowd goes crazy.
John Petty, who recently enjoyed his 22nd birthday, gets the definite shooter's touch and bounce on that one. And John Petty is way too good a shooter to be putting up 28% from downtown. I expect that number to go up quite a bit in the coming months.
Mike, it's easier said than done. As a shooter, and you see his last 3 games, 2 of 17, but what we're not showing you, if you go back and watch those games, watch how the defense has been gravitating to John Petty. I mean, they have been sticking to him like white on rice. It's unbelievable. When he comes off of the screen, they're there. They're not trying to go over the screen. They're trailing him on the screen. Every place he goes on the court, they're attached to him. And so that makes it a challenge. What Alabama has happen are the other players continue to step up. Like you said, Shackelford, Quinterly, Bruner, Herbert Jones. As they continue to get better on the offensive end, it'll allow John Petty to free up a little bit more offensively.
19.7 rebounds now for Bassey. And now a steal by the Hilltoppers, and the flush in traffic by Anderson. Emphatic slam gives Western Kentucky a 3-point lead. And another steal, this time by McKnight. Numbers for the Hilltoppers. Out of bounds to Western Kentucky.
Unbelievable. Right now, this is a changing of the tide right now. Western Kentucky getting off of the break, and Mr. Anderson says, I will meet you at the rim. Big boy basketball by the 6'6", 190-pound senior out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
I'm going full-out SportsCenter top 10 nominee on that slam. And I'm going to assume you concur, because I know you like a good slam.
Anytime you dunk on somebody, you got to potentially get in that SportsCenter top 10.
Oxygen ball fired up as Alabama continues to struggle from behind the arc. Now 5 of 22 for the game.
Well, they've struggled, but their defense has been sound enough to keep them within striking distance. It's almost like Alabama's right there. As soon as they can put together one of those runs, as you see Bruner with the 3-point shot.
And that's something he can do at 6'10". He has some finesse to his game. He's got good touch. He's got a green-white. That's his 5th 3-pointer of the season. That'll tie it up 47 all with 12:45 to play. The pinball action finally scooped up by Petty. Petty puts it on the deck. A runner by Petty pops out, and a rebound to Western. McKnight finds Bassey on the flush. Bassey continues his assault on Alabama. 21 points. 3 from Bama. And great job by Petty on the offensive rebound. He's fouled.
Well, for any NBA scouts, if they're watching this basketball game, they are loving what they're seeing from Charles Bassey. As he gets a break, and you saw him make the motion as to say, I want some water. Big fella's tired.
He's earned it.
He's earned it. And of course, Coach Rick Stansbury using a strategy here to get him a few seconds before the timeout as well, so he gets a little additional time on that sideline. But for Alabama, whoever the bigs are, you've got to do a better job, whether you're Bruner or Reese, of getting back and running the floor with Charles Bassey.
Three ball from the corner. The Hilltoppers will slow it up. Rawls bounces it over to McKnight. Under 12 minutes to go. Back and forth we go. Hilltoppers up by a pair. He tried to split a double. Lucky for Rawls, did not turn it over. Rawls gets it back, throws up a runner. Back iron unkind. Alabama scoops it up at Shackelford. Shackelford in the lane. Tough shot, gets the whistle, and he'll go to the line for two when we come back.
Yeah, he's really good at that. And let me tell you what that big man is good at, number 23, at running the floor. Runs like a deer. Look at him sprint the floor. If you don't run with me, you don't get the finish with me. Charles, big boy Bassey right here in Coleman Coliseum trying to get a W.
Crimson Tide, the mascot, of course, an elephant. One of the most prominent mascots in all of college athletics. And, you know, I don't know. I think Baxter says he wants to be a mascot. My Boston Terrier here. He's been begging to be on camera now for about an hour and a half. Mike Morgan, Damian Fishback, this is Baxter. And he's a huge college basketball fan. He can't get enough. He was breaking down a terrific play inside by Western Kentucky so far, Fish. So it's always good to have a mascot around.
Well, I'm a huge dog lover, and Baxter is as cute as he wants to be. You know, I'm curious, though. You know, we've been talking about the skill sets of all these players. What type of skill set does Baxter have?
I'm going to tell you this. Here's the scouting report on my dog. Baxter is as quick twitch as they come. He can run a 40 faster than any wide receiver or DB you're going to see in the college football playoff. That dog is like a jackrabbit. I don't know where he gets it from. Most Boston Terriers, a little short and pudgy. He's kind of long and skinny for his build. Yeah, he's got great upside. Great upside, Fish. But he can't shoot the three like you can.
Well,
or like any of these guys can.
He's got his dad's genetics. That's where he gets it from.
Maybe my pre-COVID genetics will put on a few LBs during this time. Herbert Jones putting on a display. Nice layup in transition. Alabama up by one. Of course, Western Kentucky's got their own unique mascot in Big Red. One of the heaviest mascots in college athletics. Nice move inside that time by McKnight. Back and forth we go. The lead changes continue here in Tuscaloosa. Here's Big Red. You've probably seen he's been on some Sports Center commercials. 41 years old, 3 billion pounds. That's 3 spins on the biggest of scales. He's got more Twitter followers than you and I combined, Fish, and he's in the Hall of Fame for mascots. So you got to love Big Red's accomplishments thus far.
Well, and I would have to get a Twitter account to have a follower.
We're working on that.
No, we're not.
We can't get you to make that move into social media. Oh man. Pull up three on the way, right between the eyes. Jordan Rawls buries the triple.
Jordan Rawls has been playing and displaying tremendous confidence. Former Conference USA all-freshman team is continuing to get better every single time he steps in between the lines.
Jones hammered inside. A trip to the free throw line. Okay, some mascot trivia. Which SEC mascots are in the Hall of Fame? Now, I'll admit, I don't know this off the top of my head. I have to think, and again, I'm a dog lover, as you can tell. I have to think Uga is one of the two. Am I right or wrong on that one?
Keep going. Keep going.
Okay.
Give me a couple more guesses. You see the elephant? He said, "Come on, Mike."
So I'm wrong on that, I guess. Okay. Wow. Tough crowd. I mean, we got a bunch of Tigers. So we got Cocky for South Carolina. Anybody for Cocky? I know he won a couple of those contests back in the day. Yeah, nobody's telling me if I'm right or wrong. That's a little bit of a disadvantage.
We're going to see how far you go.
Right, let me call the basketball game, and then we'll get back to my wrong guesses. Bassey missed a shot, got the rebound, drew the foul. Charles Bassey continues to put on a clinic down low. Let the big man eat. All right, here, let's see how wrong I was.
I was going to give you a hint and say, I was going to say Bruce Pearl had coached at both schools, but that would have given it away. That would have been too
given
easy.
it away.
I needed to let you struggle a little bit more.
Yeah, well, I definitely was on the struggle bus from that contest. So, I was driving and riding shotgun at the same time. Smokey and Aubie. Now I know Smokey and Aubie. So Smokey and no Uga, one dog over another. I'm sure some Georgia fans not happy about that. Oh, okay, these are suited mascots. We're technicalities here. I don't know. You know, I'm always going to go with the dogs.
If it had been the suited mascots, you would have gotten it. Oh, nice finish by Mr. Jones with the Euro.
Herbert Jones heating up. 11 points now for Jones and a chance at 12 at the free throw line.
You know, Mike, this is a situation with a little over or close to 9 minutes left to where I was anxious to see if either team would be able to pull away in their style. And it's a push-pull. It's like a boxing match where you have one boxer that wants to be rough and wants to get inside and throw a bunch of body blows versus another boxer who wants to kind of move and go around the ring and just kind of hit and move. That's Alabama right now. But they can't quite pull away because Western Kentucky continues to control the tempo. But Western Kentucky also can't pull away because Alabama is doing a solid job defensively.
No, that's a great point all around. I will say the difference between this year in Alabama and last year in Alabama, in late clock situations, end of the game situations, I mean, you knew Kyra Lewis was going to be the guy. There's an open look and an open three knocked down. Is that Osali? If it is, that's the first basket for the junior. It sure is the first shot and first basket, and it gives Western Kentucky a 5-point lead. And then an offensive foul on Alabama.
Well, we talked about how good this Western Kentucky team was. They would not be intimidated coming into Coleman Coliseum. Only losses to West Virginia, who I think is good enough to win the entire thing this year, and Louisville.
I want to correct something I said. That was a goaltend on the last possession, not an offensive foul. So it's a 3-point game. And there's a steal. John Petty read that one all the way. Petty going to rise and fire on a three and knocks it down to tie it up. What a shot and what a play overall for John Petty, the senior. A steal and a three for the tie. Timeout, Western Kentucky.
How about these fans making a difference? The Crimson Tide saying we were down, but we are far from out.
Mike Morgan, Damian Fishback back with you from Tuscaloosa. And Fish, I know you like to see some good defense on the ball screens. We saw that from Alabama.
Yeah, Mike, take a look here. On the ball screen there, you had help by both John Petty and Herbert Jones. They didn't stay attached to their man, and so that allowed them to get the steal. That's what we were talking about before, Mike. Typically, you think that it's only the two guys that are guarding the ball screen. That time, neither Petty nor Herbert Jones were involved in the ball screen, but it was their help that allowed the steal, which led to the three-point shot.
We don't make many promises, Fish and I, but we did promise you a close game, and that's what we've had. Already a combined 10 ties and lead changes in the second half. No team has led by more than 6 points. The Hilltoppers have led it most of the way. It's been a nip and tuck affair. Conference USA, SEC with a battle here in Tuscaloosa. Petty corrals the rebound. Here comes Alabama. Jones weaving in traffic and draws a foul on the Hilltoppers. Free throws upcoming for the Tide. 59 all our score. NBA scouts will be making plenty of trips to Bowling Green, Kentucky to see that young man. Charles Bassey, 23 points and 8 rebounds in this game. He is leading the way for Western Kentucky. Of course, Alabama has had a couple of NBA point guards in the last 2 years, including one Kyra Lewis. And Fish, when you look at the SEC, no conference had more first-round picks or overall draft picks in last year's NBA draft.
It's one of the reasons why you see the SEC struggle a lot of times out of the gate. The ACC as well sometimes, in particular in this league in the SEC, you've had 12 draft picks the last 2 years, 6 in the first round. And so what that means is unbelievable turnover. When you're looking at a company, and a lot of these college basketball teams are just like that. It's the same thing. So they're having to learn a new system. The success has been what's caused some of the struggles with the SEC because they lose those players, and then they have to come out and actually play a very challenging schedule. But it's the success that's allowed recruits to continue to come to the SEC year in and year out.
And there you see Kira Lewis went number 13 last year, a lottery pick. You know, this goes back to a point I was making earlier in that, yeah, people say, well, Alabama's a veteran team, and you got a bunch of seniors. You got Jones back and Petty back. But here's the difference. Late game, late clock, you knew Kira Lewis had the ball in his hands.
Sure.
And he had the opportunity to make a play. I think Coach Oates is still trying to figure out who is his go-to guy offensively in similar situations.
Right. And it's one of the reasons why you look at a team like Gonzaga, who had a big win over Iowa today, as being the best team in the country. The same thing with a team like Baylor, who has veteran guys coming back. Coach Mark Few and Scott Drew both doing an outstanding job. When Gonzaga gets in a situation, they've got guys like Timmy and Kispert that are helping a young freshman like Suggs make a play. That's where Kentucky has struggled earlier. That's where Duke has struggled earlier. And they need some veterans, or they're going to need the young players to grow up extremely quickly.
I think Kentucky's still figuring out who that guy is going to be. Nice teardrop by Shackelford, and Alabama recaptures the lead. Coming up on 6.5 minutes left to play. Coleman Coliseum, Alabama and Western Kentucky. What an entertaining game since the opening tip. Shot clock down to 5. A runner is knocked down. Great shot by the freshman Davion McKnight.
Davion McKnight, the 6'1", 190-pound freshman out of Shelbyville, Kentucky, had a wide-open lane because there was so much attention to Charles Bassey on the interior.
Tough turnover for the Tide. Hilltoppers up by 1 with the basketball and a strong take. Josh Anderson gliding to the basket and thunders it home.
This Western Kentucky team has a lot of swagger. It's going to be hard to knock them off in Conference USA this year.
And then another turnover. Quick hands by Anderson. 3-on-2. Inside. Bucket good for the big man Bassey, and a timeout for Alabama. Nate Oates told us point blank Western Kentucky has, quote, SEC athletes. They're looking like it right now.
Well, first of all, they're doing what Coach Rick Stansbury said. They said, we're going to pound the basketball inside. And so for Alabama, we gave them credit for helping one another out. That time they had no help. Now watch Charles Bassey here, running the floor again. And as he runs the floor, it allows him to establish that inside position early. It is a fight when you're a big guy from the very beginning of the play. And that time, Bruner, he didn't run the floor good enough and allowed Charles Bassey to get position, and then it was just too easy. He dominated him on the interior.
25 points for Charles Bassey. What is there not to like about that young man's game? I mean, he has made a statement.
Well, let's take a look. How has he gotten it done? Most of the time it's running the floor, right? The screen and roll. We talked about the fact that they ran it eloquently the entire game. Here's another screen and roll. Seal and got Reese on his back on the interior. Here is again running the floor. You run the floor, you get rewarded. And I love the fact that the Hilltoppers are rewarding the big man. Big men do so much. They block shots, give you rim protection, they help you. They set screens for you. Well, the Hilltoppers are rewarding Charles Bassey for all of his hard work by giving him the basketball when he earns it on the offensive end.
He's been the best player on the floor in this game today. And again, for Western Kentucky, this is where playing tough opponents through those first 7 games matters. You play Memphis, you play Rhode Island, a tough loss against West Virginia. They didn't come in here rattled, or they didn't think it was too big a moment for them to shine. They have shined thus far. We'll see if they can hold on or the Tide can come back down by 5.
Mike, keep your eye on how Hollingsworth is staying attached to John Petty, number 11 in black. Everywhere John Petty goes, he goes.
So if Petty is shadowed, who do you go to here if you're Alabama? Well, the answer is Petty. And an offensive rebound by Shackelford.
They get a chance to reset. Every black jersey is staying attached to John Petty. Woo, what a block.
Rejection out of bounds. Bassey top floor for the SWAT.
The answer to your question, partner, is you've got a ton of options. You can try to run a screen and roll, pick and pop with Bruner. You can allow Shackelford to work together along with Herbert Jones. You've got the 5-star freshman in Primo. But Petty did a nice job of back cutting there. He's just got to finish the play.
Oh, that play was beautifully designed for Petty. Missed it from close range. Under 5 minutes to play.
Well, if you're Alabama here, you got to sit down in your stance and try to put together multiple stops before the Hilltoppers make this game out of reach.
Bassey trying a backdoor cut. He moves so well for a big man.
Well, it's so good to see guys like him be able to come back and be healthy. You look at Josh Langford at Michigan State. That's why I'm so glad that, you know, college basketball and these young men and women have been allowed to play this year, because so many of them have put in a tremendous amount of work to get back to where they are.
Quick hands and almost a steal. Yes, a steal for Petty. Good possession for Bama. And drawing the foul is Josh Primo. Bassey, by the way, 25 points. His career high is 29.
John Petty has done a phenomenal job on the defensive end tonight. And that's very important to I think, to really clarify, because when you're not shooting well, because he's getting defended so arduous by the defenders, I think that the fact that he's mentally matured as a senior, as a veteran, and still making sure that he rebounds, he's not holding his head down, is something that Coach Nate Oates in Alabama has to like.
That's a great point. And the great players help in other ways even when they're not shooting well. Too often you'll see a player, if they're having an off night, shooting the basketball, it ruins the rest of their game. You can't do that as a veteran player. 3-point game, under 4 minutes to play.
They're trying to work it and get it back to Charles Bassey. Here goes that screen and roll. Bruner's doing a much better job this time.
Great box out and rebound in traffic by Jordan Bruner. Bruner tearing it away. He gets fouled. Alabama down by 3. 3:49 to play. Western Kentucky leading Alabama 67-64. We highlighted these two players at the beginning of the game. Charles Bassey, 4 points off his career high. He has been the story. Herbert Jones has been good. 12 points, 2 rebounds. As always, superb defense by the senior. But Fish, they're going to need some other guys to step it up for Alabama.
Well, Herbert Jones is experiencing the same thing that John Petty has been experiencing, right? He had a tremendous game last game. He's having a tremendous season. So he's at the top of the scouting report now. Charles Bassey, he's doing what we expected him to do. They're going to ride Charles Bassey as long as they can. Now, teams are going to make adjustments. They're going to start double teaming Bassey more, and then you'll see other players on Western Kentucky that will have to step up.
Couple of free throws for the transfer from Yale, Jordan Bruner. Came in averaging 5.5 points, 4.5 rebounds a game.
Mike, I know you got a nice jump shot. You've played in some different leagues, but have you ever had a triple-double? I mean, to be the only player to have a triple-double in the history of Yale, it says you can ball, period.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. He's a great addition. That was a grad transfer. He's going to be called on both ends of the floor quite a bit. Nice defense there, and the rebound for Herbert Jones. Right on cue for the senior. A one-point game under 3.5 to play. Jones takes it all the way. Back iron. And a
Couldn't quite
rebound to the
make the play.
Hilltoppers. Yep.
But Herbert Jones, as you mentioned, he was able to stop Carson Williams on one end, and he wanted to go back on the block on the other end, just not able to complete it.
Massey now with his 5th double-double of the season.
The Hilltoppers aren't looking for Charles Bassey as much as they need to be as well here later in this basketball game.
Massey dives down low, and he got it, and he missed the dunk. Might have been blocked by Bruner. Here comes Alabama.
Every possession so critical here now down the stretch.
Strong take and drawing the foul. No basket, but Jaden Shackelford will go to the line.
Well, I said they weren't getting it to Bassey. Here it is on the bottom, and it looked like, yeah, it got blocked just a little bit, and Bassey was looking for a foul, but I think it was a good no call.
Yeah, looked clean from Bruner. And now Shackelford to the line. And a chance for Alabama to retake the lead. 2:42 to play. This game has been nip and tuck from the opening tip.
It's actually
Alabama
one of the
on
advantages. It's actually one of the advantages, Mike, with rescheduling. Sometimes you get better games than you thought you would have because two teams just happen to be available. I think this game is a prime example.
Hollingsworth up top. Got Bassey down low if you want him. Instead, they work it around on the perimeter. Hollingsworth killed the dribble and then turned it over. Here comes Bama in transition. Shackelford tapped in. Herbert Jones knifing in and gets the tip, and Bama by 3. Hilltoppers scoreless for the last 3.5 minutes. And a foul called on Alabama. Tomorrow we'll have the exclusive reveal of the college football playoff matchups in the Rose Bowl and the All-State Sugar Bowl to be played on New Year's Day. Reese and the guys will also unveil the New Year's 6 and the final top 25 rankings in this 4-hour extravaganza, all starting at noon, 9 a.m. Pacific, after Sunday NFL Countdown on ESPN, the playoff selection show presented by AT&T 5G.
I'm just saying, Mike, can we do something to extend the playoff from 4 teams to 6 to 7 to 8? I know you got a lot of contacts and connections. Keep talking about the 6 degrees of separation. Let me see something, please.
If they listened to me, we wouldn't have suffered through the BCS for 20 years. We would have had an 18 playoff a long time ago. We know in basketball we've got a playoff. These two teams hope to be a part of it. Jones had his man beat and then just missed it at the rim.
Huge miss. Now if you're Western Kentucky, there is no way that Charles Bassey doesn't at least get a touch on this end of the floor if I'm the Hilltoppers.
He sets a screen, dives to the basket. Instead, it's going to be a strong take and a foul drawn by Jordan Rawls. Understand Ohio State took care of business against Northwestern in the Big Ten championship game, so you can, in all likelihood, count on a 6-0 team to make it to the 4-team college playoff. A lot of people think Notre Dame and Clemson will be locks, and then of course Alabama. I don't see how Alabama doesn't get in, even if they lost to Florida. How are you going to keep the Crimson Tide in, who for my money look like the best team in college football? So some familiar brands there that are going to be taking part in the college football playoff. Meanwhile, the second free throw rattles in for Rawls. He's got 20, a very quiet 20 points for the sophomore, and Western Kentucky back up by a point. Here we go. 65 seconds to play. Eddie passed up on the 3, and he's fouled. Josh Anderson making the cardinal mistake of fouling Petty 22, 23 feet from the basket.
Well, that's something else that's something else that well, Stansbury's been here. He's seen it all, done it all. This is something else that John Petty has to do more of. You see the shot fake? Every player that guards him knows that they're guarding him as a shooter. So he has to get a little bit more crafty as well. He needs to do more back cutting, some starting and stopping when he comes off of screens, changing of directions when he gets the basketball, jumping away from the defender, jumping into the defender. That's something else he can do to keep the defense off base as he ties the game.
He missed the first, hit the second. Another tie in this game. 71 all, 53 seconds and counting. Now make it 51 with a timeout called by Rick Stansbury, coaching his 30th game against Alabama.
Well, if we were to project odds, I don't know what they'd be. But if I'm Coach Rick Stansbury, I know I'm running some type of play to get Charles Bassey the basketball. Now, we've seen great plays by Jordan Rawls. Hollingsworth stepped up from time to time. They can go inside to Williams if he's in the basketball game. But the guy who brought me here, if I'm Western Kentucky, is Charles Bassey. I want to get him a touch on the interior, try to let him score or get fouled. And if I'm Alabama, I know that's coming. So defensively, I want to do something to try to throw the Hilltoppers off, whether that's double teaming Charles Bassey, whether that's coming into a zone. I want to do something to not allow the Hilltoppers to get it to their best player.
Each team will have the benefit of the double bonus the rest of the way. Hilltoppers 1 timeout, Alabama 2 timeouts. A tie game. No team has led by more than 6. Western Kentucky led this game 16-10. That was the largest lead we've had. Alabama has not led by more than 3. It has been a dogfight from Jump Street here in Tuscaloosa. And everybody's going to be looking for that man, number 23 in black, to get the basketball at some point in this possession. He's guarded by Bruner.
Also, make sure, if Alabama is able to get a stop, that you watch the offensive rebound. That's always so critical as you go down the stretch in the last minute of play.
Bassey,
that's good help by Jones.
Yeah, great weak side help by Jones. Shot clock down to 7. Now 5. Going to have to hoist one up. 2 seconds in the lane. Missed it at the rim. There's Bassey on the follow. Shot blocked, but did they call a goaltend?
It's just what we talked about, the offensive rebound.
Oh, the ball did not hit the rim, so it will be a shot clock violation.
Wow. And so now if you're Alabama, let's see if Coach Nate Oates calls a timeout. It's risky if he does, because Coach Rich Stansbury may come out and change into a zone defense. He's not going to call it, but I guarantee you, if you're Alabama here, you want to take the last shot.
Herbert Jones backing in. Jones to the lane. Missed it, and there's still a ton of time. 7 seconds.
Play.
What is Western Kentucky doing? Oh, goodness, it took them 9 seconds, and they will not get a shot off. Boy, that was a tough possession for both teams. Western Kentucky will hold on to win it 73-71. I thought for... So they did call goaltend on the previous possession. We were told shot clock violation. That's not the case. It was called a goaltend on Alabama, and Western Kentucky will get out of here with a win.
Wow.
I would love to see another look. Again, we were told that this was not a goaltend, but an actual shot clock violation. Yeah, it hit the backboard and then hit. That's actually the right call.
Yeah, it's definitely a goaltend. And it did hit the rim, which would have reset the shot clock. So we just didn't know. Obviously, we're not there where we could ask the officials. Yeah. But what a tremendous win by the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. Alabama shouldn't hang their heads down. It's a quality basketball team, but it is a lost opportunity for the Tide. Outstanding job by Rick Stansbury and the Hilltoppers.
An outstanding job by the sensational junior Charles Bassey. 27 points, 12 rebounds. Western Kentucky on a goaltend in the waning seconds wins it in Tuscaloosa. That'll do it for us. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. So long, everybody.